Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime, where we explore past true crime cases and many times current true crime cases and let you know of the victims that were involved and making it about the victims and celebrating their life where they are taken way too soon because of some selfish act. If this sounds like something you like to subscribe to, be sure to click on that subscribe button, hit that like, and hit on that notification bell. That way, YouTube lets you know when I upload content or I go live. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Amazon review killer. That's right. This little known serial killer from South Carolina, literally left people for dead through a mass murder. He was a serial killer who killed multiple people. He's this little known serial killer that very few people know about from South Carolina. And he was unusual in many respects. He committed murders fitting with the traditional serial killer mold, but he also committed a mass shooting at a motorcycle dealership because they made fun of him and rejected his effort to return a motorcycle. And that's what we're going to be diving into today. He even left Amazon reviews on tools he allegedly used on his victims. And that's where he gets this nickname, Amazon Review Killer. He was also one of the wealthiest known serial killers. He even owned his own plane. And, that's where it makes him one of the serial killers that had a little more money than the other serial killers. And even though he had a felony conviction for kidnapping when he was 15 years old, he concealed his conviction and became one of the top selling realtors in the state of South Carolina. His name, Todd Kohlhepp. And through all of this, he's an American serial killer, sex offender, and mass murderer convicted of murdering 7 people in South Carolina between 2003 and 2016. He was born on March 7th, 1971 as Todd Christopher Kohlhepp in Florida. And he was raised in South Carolina and Georgia. His parents divorced when he was only 2 years old. His mother got custody and married another man the following year. Later, psychologists reports found that Kohlhepp had an unhealthy relationship with his stepfather and always wanted to live with his biological father, whom he had not seen in 8 years. Kohlhepp was described as a troublesome child. In nursery school, he was known to be aggressive toward other children and would destroy their property, many times out of jealousy. At the age of 9, when he started undergoing counseling, Kohlhepp was described as being explosive and preoccupied with sexual content. He also displayed cruelty to animals, shooting a dog with a BB gun and killing a goldfish with Clorox bleach. Kohlhepp's father later said the only emotion his son was capable of was anger. Kohlhepp spent 3.5 months in a Georgia psychiatric hospital as an inpatient because of his inability to get along with other children. And then before you know it, he finally gets to live with his biological father in Arizona after his mother and stepfather separated. he took his father's surname and began working a number of local jobs. He also inherited his father's hobby of collecting weapons and was taught by his father to blow things up and make bombs. And despite this part of their relationship deteriorated due to his father's absence with a number of girlfriends he would go and spend his time with. And Kohlhepp expressed desire to return to his mother, though she reportedly kept making excuses to extend his stay and keep him with his biological father. And in 1987, he was convicted. He was convicted of a kidnapping of a 14-year-old. You see, on November 25th of 1986, 15-year-old Kohlhepp, he kidnapped a 14-year-old girl in Tempe, Arizona. And he threatened her with a .22 caliber revolver, brought her back to his home, tied her up, taped her mouth shut, and raped her. Afterwards, he walked her home and threatened to kill her younger siblings if she told anyone what had happened. Kohlhepp was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and committing a dangerous crime against children. And in 1987, he pled guilty to the kidnapping charge, while the other charges were dropped because he pled guilty. And he was sentenced to 15 years in prison and registered as a sex offender. According to court records, Kohlhepp was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and had an above average IQ of 118. The judge in the case said Kohlhepp was very bright and should be advanced academically, but behaviorally and emotionally dangerous, and likely could not be rehabilitated. Kohlhepp's probation officer wrote a similar description in court papers and added that he felt the world owed him something. Kohlhepp's attorney in that case later went on to say that while defending him, he did not believe his client would go on to harm others in the future. During his imprisonment, Kohlhepp was initially cited for violations that included some violent behavior, and turning 20 years old, however, he had no other records of disobedience. And that was about the extent of all the write-ups that he had. And before you know it, in August 2001, he was released from prison after serving 14 years and moved to South Carolina, where he is now going to live with his mother. During his imprisonment, he attended and graduated from Central Arizona College with a bachelor's degree in computer science. And from January 2002 to November 2003, he began working as a graphic designer for a company in Spartanburg. He began studying at Greenville Technical College in 2003. Kohlhepp transferred to the University of South Carolina Upstate the following year and graduated in 2008 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration Marketing. And despite being registered as a sex offender, Kohlhepp was able to get a real estate license on June 30th of 2006 after lying about the felony charge on his application. And you can see right here on your screen where he talks about how he lied about this. Yeah, how he lied about this. And you can see where I highlighted some of this stuff. On November 24th, 1986, he says in his letter, I entered into a verbal argument with my girlfriend, who was also 15 at the time, over the fact that she was seeing someone else as well, which resulted in us going to my house 3 addresses down from hers in order to not have our business shouted out in the middle of the road. After a long discussion coming from 2 teenagers, final result was that the relationship had ended, but that we would remain friends. To show that this was the end of the situation as far as we were concerned, after our heated conversation, my dog managed to get out of the fence and the 2 of us ran around the neighborhood for 20 minutes before she caught him and returned my dog to the yard. At this time, law enforcement arrived due to a call from her parents over the difficulty that they had been trying to call her and she had never answered the phone. And he goes on to lie and say, at this time, after admitting we had had a heated argument, they found that I possessed a firearm for which I never shot, that I carried at night at the Phoenix area of Arizona, as the Phoenix area of Arizona had a very high crime rate, and I thought very juvenile-like that possession and no knowledge of how to use it would keep me safe by being able to flash it. He also says at this time Arizona was coming down very hard on minors and anything to do with firearms due to the heavy gang activity out there, and I received a sentence of 15 years, which I served every day, no parole required. And he goes on to talk about some of the things that he did, but he finishes this with, I have worked very diligently for 2 decades to show my intent and ambition to do the right thing, and should you allow me to become a licensed real estate professional, I promise to set an example in performing in a manner following all guidelines honorably of your commission. He literally shares those lies. And to top it off, they never verify this stuff. Like, how do you not verify this stuff? Literally, how do you not verify what has occurred? That right there is kind of mind-blowing. He admits to having a felony, but they don't check the background on that. That is a little wrong if you ask me. From this, he built a big real estate business. He built a firm that had a dozen agents in its who he employed. He had been recognized as a top-selling agent in the Carolina region. The firm was closed down after he was arrested. And the Facebook page, believe it or not, to this day still exists. You can find it on Facebook. And Kohlhepp, he also acquired a private pilot license and several properties out of state. You know, and having this private license, they wonder if there were other bodies that he buried throughout, in other states or even internationally, because he had a pilot license and a plane to carry this out. And in May 2014, he purchased nearly 100 acres of land located in an area 9 miles from the community of Moore, South Carolina. And he purchased that for just over $305,000. And it recently sold for $500,000. He then, after purchasing this, he then set a fence around the property, which cost him about $80,000. So he was a successful real estate agent. He had money to do this. A customer who sold her home to Kohlhepp remembered him as an extremely outgoing and professional, but noted that he would often talk about his firearms and sometimes subtly use sexual innuendos during their conversations. Conversely, a woman who assisted one of Kohlhepp's employees described him as angry and condescending towards her partner. A banker who worked with Kohlhepp said he often watched pornographic videos even at work. And before you know it, he's also visiting a Waffle House on a regular basis in Roebuck, South Carolina. This is the actual Waffle House you're looking at. And here, his behavior disturbed the waitresses to the point where the male cook began to take his orders for the waitresses. And according to this employee who shared that, one of the waitresses was Megan Coxey, one of Kohlhepp's victims that we would later find out about. And in August of 2016, 30-year-old Kayla Brown and her 32-year-old boyfriend disappeared on their way to clean a friend's house in South Carolina. And it was Todd's house that they had normally did every so often. And police went to Brown's house and saw that her dog was left without any food or water. And friends of Brown and Carver say they knew they had not run away. Kayla would never leave her dog to die without any food. In October of 2016, a month after the couple went missing, friends of Charlie Carver started receiving texts from his account. And the texts were all, "I'm fine, me and Kayla are okay, we are okay." Police speculated that the texts were not from Charlie, but from a hacker who was playing a sick game. And for a little while, they actually thought it was Charlie's soon-to-be ex-wife, thinking that she hacked into his account and did this because of being upset over their separation and soon-to-be divorce. And in November 2016, police traced a cell phone signal from Kayla's phone to a rural, grassy 100 acres of land in South Carolina. And it led them to noticing that the property was owned by TKA Real Estate Company, which is owned by Todd Kohlhepp. And so, of course, the police are going to go and visit. So on November 3rd of 2016, investigators and the deputy went over to his house to talk with him to see if they can eliminate him as a suspect or make an arrest. And while they're there, the group got a team to search Kohlhepp's property. And while they're searching the property, they come across a metal shipping container at the edge of the property. And so they come to this and they're like, this was locked very tight. tight enough where if someone was inside, the only way for them to get out was if people on the outside opened the doors. So the team, they began to bang on the outside of the shipping container to see if anything would happen. To their surprise, they got a response. They heard 3 large bangs that sounded like someone stomping from inside the container. To make sure they weren't crazy, they banged again. And just like before, they got the same response. Large stomps. The team got enough items to unlock the shipping container. When they opened the container, they quickly headed in, and they would quickly find to see if there was a person in there. And shockingly, there was. At the back of the container, they found Kayla Brown chained like a dog, sitting on the ground. And so they go and they start doing their first, let's show you when the police arrive to talk to him.
Based on the fact that you were the last person to see them, and there's some other information that the investigators, and like I said, me and him were just brought into this. Yes. As a matter of fact, I was just brought into it last night. Okay. Based on some information that Anderson Police Department received, they had contacted us for an assisting an agency report. Okay. And through that, as a standard practice, we follow the lines, like she explained. Okay. And they did the search warrants, with the cell phones and everything. Okay. And based on information, and that's what I was just talking to, is my supervisor. Based on the information that we received.
Now, remind you, at this same time, they have a search going on around his property. He doesn't quite know that yet, of course.
And that he's received. We have a search warrant, for your residence and your car. Okay? We are mainly looking for your cell phone. Okay? Well, what I need to go in with, at least one other, me and at least him need to go in with you.
So now they go in, they start asking him questions, and they say they want to see his cell phone. He's like, I have no problem showing you my cell phone at all. I'm happy to show it. He's acting like he's more than willing to show what it is that he's going to be sharing, right? And so, you look at it and you're like, okay, what a heinous guy he is. Now let's watch when she is rescued and they get her, okay? Let's watch as they rescue her.
All right. My sergeant served a search warrant on your property.
Sorry, that is actually not the right one. There we go. So let's watch the release and we'll get to the arrest.
Yes. Pull that one first. All right, let them get ready. Everybody. Come on, guys. Just jammed in here. Give me that crowbar back. Where's that? Get that big crowbar here. Right here. John. Watch out. Y'all move. I got it. Watch out, boss.
Hey, Joey.
Sheriff's officer.
Sheriff's officer.
What?
Grab that.
Back up there. Just one. Are you okay?
Grab one. Go.
Do you have any weapons? Come through, okay? What's your name? What's your name, man?
Lauren. Gotcha. All right.
Just a girl.
Just a girl, just a girl. How are you, honey?
We're bolt cutters.
This is our best. He's a paramedic, sweetheart.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get you out of there. Okay.
Just hang loose for me.
Anybody got? I need a handcuff key. Handcuff key. I don't.
I got
have
it right
one.
here. Hold up. Y'all slide back. Hold on.
He's got a light. We gotta let you take photographs.
Randy, let me see your light, Randy.
You can put your hands up, sweetheart. You're okay. We're here. Okay.
Just sit back for me.
Light on or off?
You're fine. We'll get the rest of it here. Let's get her out of here.
We're getting bolt cutters, honey. Don't.
You got pictures of the cuffs?
No, hold on. Is both feet?
Just one.
Let me
It's
see.
attached to a chain from the
Okay.
wall, and my neck's attached to the wall up here.
Okay. All right. All right. We're gonna get you out, sweetheart. Okay.
You got a handcuff key.
I got mine's in my car. Mine's under my car. Gloves on when I did that.
No big deal.
Bolt cutter.
No big deal.
Just hit the chain right there, loose.
Hold it up.
Just right there at her hand, Brandon. We'll get it off.
We'll get it off here. Cut it right here.
Do you know where your buddy is?
Charlie,
Yes.
he shot him.
He shot him.
He shot
Who
him.
did?
Douche.
Todd Kohlhepp shot Charlie Carver 3 times in the chest, wrapped him in a blue tarp, put him in the bucket of the tractor, locked me down here, and I never seen him again.
Okay.
He says he's dead and buried. He says there's several bodies dead and buried out here, and he says that the dogs will be ruined if they go looking because there's red pepper.
We're gonna step you out, sweet. Because there's what?
Red pepper.
Okay.
Tell the dog people that.
He says
No,
there's pepper everywhere around the
Chilling. Even though that she is safe now from that has messed her up. Shortly after this incident, she had like a boyfriend who like tried to stab himself and blame her. I mean, she's good, and then she might have been recently cited for domestic violence. So this has really left her messed up. I mean, this is a hard thing to get over. It's a memory she'll never, ever get rid of. And I'm praying that she finds solace and she gets through these hard times for her. And so, you know, now once they find her, then of course, now it's time to arrest the creep.
All right? My sergeant served a search warrant on your property. Okay? We have Haley. We have Haley in your property. She was locked in a container. Okay? She has told us that you shot and killed Charlie. Okay? So at this time, I'm going to need you to stand up and put your hands behind your back.
He's already
handcuffed. Okay. You're under arrest right now for kidnapping. All right? They're continue to search your property. They're going to continue. They got cadaver dogs down there. Okay? If you want to help yourself, tell me where Charlie's at so we can go find his body. That's pretty much where we're at right now. Okay. Do you want to help yourself and tell me where the body's at so we can go recover Charlie's body?
No, sir.
You don't want to?
No, sir.
Okay. Why'd you shoot him?
I didn't shoot anybody, sir.
Okay, why'd you lock her in a container in your property?
I was talking about.
She's on your property right now, locked in a container. They just got her out of they called it a specific name. Connex box. She was locked in a container in a Connex box. They got her. We have investigators. We have like 20 investigators on your property right now.
Okay.
And they have found her in the Connex box. So she never left your property.
Okay.
Okay, you locked her in the Connex box, and she has told investigators that you shot and killed Charlie. Okay, so I'm trying to give you an opportunity to help yourself and help us, help you find this body. Because she's saying Charlie's body, you buried Charlie's body on that property.
No, sir.
So you're saying you didn't lock her up, you didn't put her in the Connex box or anything?
No, sir. I'm gonna need an attorney.
Probably a good thing. Go ahead and put him in the back of your car.
Sir.
Come on,
Yes, sir. I will.
Okay.
I'm not resisting.
okay. Just stand up for me.
Will you?
Stand up for me.
Yes, sir.
Come here, Taz.
You hear him even say, he doesn't know what they're talking about. He didn't do anything with Charlie. He didn't lock her in that thing. Like, what else is he going to say, I guess, except admit the truth? And because when they asked Kayla where Charlie was, she said right away, he shot him. You guys heard it. She's talking about Todd Kohlhepp. And so it's like, why did he think she was, what, crazy or something? Like she wasn't going to know? I mean, like, they find her chained up. Like, that's terrible. Terrible. It's heartbreaking, too. I mean, she's never going to be the same thanks to this friggin' creep. And, you know, it's like, come on. And so she followed it up with Todd Kohlhepp shot Charlie Carver 3 times in the chest, wrapped him in a blue tarp, then put him in the bucket of the tractor. Walked me down here, and I've never seen him again. There, she's talking to Charlie about Charlie Carver, because she had definitely seen Todd multiple times since. And so after Kayla was found, he was immediately taken into custody. And that's when you saw him taken into custody as well. And while being taken to the hospital, Kayla Brown, she claimed that Kohlhepp had more bodies buried on his property. And that Kohlhepp confessed to her that he was the perpetrator behind the 2003 Superbike Motorsports murders. And this was a cold case out of Spartanburg County, South Carolina, that had, till this moment, he was never a suspect in this crime. So they never had this tied to him. And so the next month, a month later, they start searching the whole property, looking for, digging things up, looking for bodies. And so Kohlhepp even helped police look for more bodies. He led them to a shallow grave that held the body of a male. The body belonged to Charlie Carver. Rest in peace, Charlie Carver. Then Kohlhepp led the investigators to 2 more shallow graves. Investigators dug up the graves and discovered 2 bodies that belonged to a male and a female. And with it, that's where it's like it really gets hard on when they're finding them. And then you have the 4 people that he finally confesses to. And so after Kayla had said that Kohlhepp confessed to her, then he was responsible for the Superbike murders. Now, of course, investigators are going to go and question Kohlhepp. And guess what? Kohlhepp confesses. And those 2 bodies that they had found, they belonged to John Coxey and Megan Coxey, a couple that had been missing since December 2015. And dental records even proved that the bodies were John and Megan. And so even though there was no physical evidence that proved Kohlhepp was responsible for the Superbike murders, he did give details that only the killer could have known. And details that were only known by investigators, and no one else would have known about that. You see, on November 6th of 2003, almost 13 years, a little after 13 years, or should I say almost on the 13th year before Kayla and all them would be found, he shot 4 people. You see, on November 6, 2003, a customer found 4 people shot dead inside Super Motorsports. And this was a motorcycle company in Chesnee. And The victims, they were identified as Scott Ponder, Beverly Guy, who is Scott's mom, Brian Lucas, and Chris Sherbert. And the owner, Scott Ponder, he was only 30 years old. The service manager, Brian Lucas, he was only 29 years old. Mechanic Chris Sherbert, he was only 26 years old. And their bookkeeper, Beverly Guy, who was also Ponder's mother, she was only 52 years old. All taken way too soon. All 4 of them died from multiple gunshot wounds. And even before Kohlhepp confessed to the shootings, even before he confessed, investigators believe that the gunman, armed with a pistol, entered the shop from the back and killed Sherbert as he worked. He then killed Beverly in the middle of the showroom, and he killed Lucas at the main doorway, and he killed Ponder in the parking lot. And according to Ponder's wife, Kohlhepp, he was a disgruntled customer who had been in the shop several times. That's what she said. According to Ponder's wife, he was a disgruntled customer who had been in the shop several times. And according to Kohlhepp's mother, he attempted to return a motorcycle there, but the employees laughed at him, would not return the money he had paid for the motorcycle, and embarrassed him for not knowing how to ride that motorcycle. You know, and considering the big gap between when the motorcycle murders occurred in 2003 and the Kohlhepp's next murders that were known by the police in 2015, police are thinking now there's a lot more victims there could have been. It's hard to believe not. I mean, he just cold-bloodedly just killed in 2003. And so investigators, they questioned Kohlhepp if he had more victims. Surprisingly, Kohlhepp said he did have more victims. Literally, he said he did. And although he says he did, he didn't want to give any more details. He said to authorities, yes, there is more than 7. I tried to tell investigators and I did tell the FBI, but it was blown off. It's not an addition problem, it's a multiplication problem. At this point, I really don't see the point of giving number or locations. Given numbers or locations. Numbers as in how many and locations as in where. He literally says it's not an addition, not adding on a few bodies. It's a multiplication times a number. I mean, he allegedly said to Kayla that he had killed close to 100 people and that he was going to keep going well into the 3 digits. And on May 26 of 2017, Kohlhepp pleaded guilty to 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault, and he was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. This guy was a heinous man. For sure, he should never see the light of day. Never see the light of day again. So why is he called Amazon Review Killer? He literally left reviews on tools that he used that were every bit part of some of his crimes. And he would leave reviews, for example, haven't stabbed anyone yet, but I am keeping the dream alive, and when I do, it will be a quality tool like this. And that was a review for a pocket knife that he posted on, he reviewed on September 13th of 2014. He wrote another one kind of showing his twisted sense of humor. He wrote about a shovel. Keep in car for when you have to hide the bodies and you left the full-size shovel at home. Does not come with a midget, which would have been nice. That's twisted stuff right there. He also said on a chainsaw that he reviewed, getting the neighbor to stand still while you chase him with it is hard enough without having a easy to use chainsaw. He literally said those kind of things. That was the type of sense of humor this twisted man had. He even posted on Facebook at one time, got to watch a so-called smart car get T-boned and turned into a beef taco today. Pretty sure no one walked away from that. Why would you buy something that dangerous? But that got me thinking. So I stopped at Taco Bell and got beef tacos for dinner. I mean, that's the kind of sick sense of humor he had. And he even wrote another Facebook post, reading the news, this missing person, that person missing, another person missing. Oh, wait, that person just went to beach with friend, other person found with her parole violation boyfriend. In the event I become missing, please note no one would take me. I eat too much and I am crabby. They would just bring me back or give me $20 for a cab ride. Most likely if I am missing, it's because my dumbass did something on that tractor again and I am too stubborn to go to the doctor. I got 9 lives. I ain't done yet. That's the type of mentality he had. And, you know, rest in peace, Scott Ponder. Here he is on their wedding day with his wife, Melissa. And rest in peace, gone way too soon, taken way too soon. Rest in peace, Brian Lucas. You can see him here prepping his bike, his race bike at the track. This was something that he absolutely loved to do. That's why he worked where he did. He loved this stuff. This was who he was, literally. Rest in peace, Chris Sherbert, taken way too soon at the young age of 26. Rest in peace, Beverly Guy, also Scott Ponder's mother, taken way too soon. Rest in peace, Beverly Guy. Taken way too soon, Johnny Coxey, only 29 years old. Rest in peace, Megan Coxey, taken way too soon. And rest in peace, Charlie Carver, taken way too soon from this world. Thank you, my friend. There you have it. The story of Todd Kohlhepp, the Amazon review killer. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button if this is the type of content you like to follow. I'm Manny Rodriguez. If you have any requests you'd like me to dive deep into, comment below. Let me know. I would be glad to dive into that. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to serving you again. Peace.